There's this fun thing. You're working on a window over here, and the pop-up is all the way over there.
I know, it does do that sometimes, doesn't it? It's quite annoying.
Right, my QuickTime is on.
Great, mine's on too. Okay, let's just do a normal sync clap. 3, 2, 1, clap. And then we'll go. Okay, cool. You all ready, yeah?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, here we go. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome back to the Google Workspace Update podcast from Strawberry 7. My name is Adam.
And my name is Adam.
We're here to bring you the latest updates about everything happening in the world of Google Workspace. This podcast is available from your regular podcast provider and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/strawberry7.
Coming up on the show today,
we have 5 updates for you today. We have updates to Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Calendar, Gmail, and Google Chat. As always, there is a link in the podcast or video description to the document that we read from. This document contains some more relevant information, links, some lovely pictures, and even some moving graphics showing you some of these features in action. So let's get to it.
On with the show. Right, so first up this week, we have a little update for everybody, which is to do with Google Sheets. So you can now easily convert email addresses and links into smart chips using the tab key in Google Sheets. You will now have the option to insert a link and press the tab key to convert the link into a smart chip in Google Sheets. Access this feature when you copy and paste email addresses or links to Google Drive files, Google Map places, or YouTube videos into a sheet. So this looks a little bit like the predictive text or the suggestive chat that you may see within Google Chat, where it kind of looks a little bit like it's suggesting something when you chat into a message. Would you like to say this next? As soon as you paste a link or an email address into Google Sheets, then you'll see a little pop-up essentially that basically says, do you want to press tab to convert this into a chip?
Very nice explanation there, Adam. And there's a lovely moving graphic in the document showing any listener how this works. And I encourage you all to have a little look in there because it's a very nice feature, this. We've talked a lot about smart chips in the past. There's been a lot of updates around these smart chips with Google. It's clear that Google really like these and are encouraging them. So people must be using them and there must be a high uptake with them. It's very nice as well with the formatting, something that I've noticed in the moving graphic here. Now, I don't know whether there's a proviso that the email address needs to be in your contacts or something like that. But I don't know if you noticed, Adam, that the email address converts to an actual name with the smart chip. So it's going from that full email address to a name. I don't know whether it's picking that up in a kind of global database or whether that has to be in your contacts or something.
Yeah,
like
I'm not sure if it's almost doing a very quick lookup to say, are these Google accounts essentially? So would the behavior be the same if it was not a Google account, or as you kind of say, where does it pick the name up from? It was also quite nice, just in case anybody is wondering, and that is clearly shown in the example within the document, that it was able to convert all of the email addresses at once. So you don't have to do them one at one. If you paste 10 email addresses, you can convert all of them into smart chips at once without needing to do them all individually.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really nice. It's a lovely feature. And I think that this will be very useful for somebody in that situation. And thanks for clarifying that you can do that in bulk, Adam, because I think that's one of the big things, isn't it, with this, that you can kind of do them all at once. So it's good.
It will save so much time, especially if you're dealing with lots of email addresses.
Yeah, absolutely. Very useful as well if you potentially want to look the name up from an email address, I should imagine, because of this lookup. If that lookup works globally, you could kind of put an email in there and convert it to a smart chip and potentially...
especially if someone's email address or their Google account, potentially, their actual username is not... The person's name is not obvious what it is based on their username, because maybe they were feeling a bit fun and they've created some quirky email address, which is not just their name.
Yeah, Absolutely. Yeah, that's right, Adam. Adam's also put a link in here for anybody to learn more about inserting smart chips generally in Google Sheets. And I would encourage you to check that out. Like I said, there's been a lot of updates around these smart chips. There's a lot of things that you can do with them. So thank you for putting that link in, Adam. And thank you for all that information. What have we got next, please?
Up next, we have an update to Google Docs. So revamping the first open experience in Docs on Android devices. And just like smart chips, Android device updates have been very popular this year, definitely. So last week, Google announced a more creation-focused experience when first opening the Sheets and Slides apps on Android devices. We covered it on this podcast as well. So Google is extending this to the Docs app, and I can't remember. We may have actually mentioned that last week, did we? I think we may have predicted that that was going to come. So Google is extending this to the Docs app, which will now start in edit mode. Additionally, the formatting toolbar will be more visible, and you'll see an I-beam cursor and tapping once exposes an on-screen. And tapping once exposes an on-screen keyboard unless a physical keyboard is attached. So last week, so this is a little bit of the other way around to my preference, which we mentioned last week, where when I like to open a doc, I actually quite like it to be in a view-only state, because if I'm opening it on a mobile device, then it's generally just for my viewing pleasure, not because I'm editing. Whereas you, Adam, you mentioned that you do actually like to do a quick edit. So if you were using an Android device, then this would be a great update for you.
So close, Adam, just so close to getting it the way that I wanted. Yeah, absolutely. You've clarified that completely. And I think this is a nice update purely from my preference, as you've alluded to there, that I do like to sort of go in straight away and edit there. And it's nice to know that they've differentiated as well between it detecting whether there's a keyboard attached, so it won't obviously bring up an on-screen keyboard when there's a keyboard attached. We've seen that a lot with mobile devices like this, where they do detect that, so that's very nice. And again, the moving graphic here shows that very nicely. Hopefully something like this will come forward to the iOS apps as well. We tend to say...
They haven't really mentioned iOS apps for whatever.
Yeah.
They're just not very mentioned. As I say, like the Android devices, especially the large screen Android devices, have been right at the front of many updates for quite a long time now, but the iOS has not.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. I mean, you know, Apple makes iOS and Google doesn't, and Google do make Android. So it does sort of make sense, but it would be nice if these sorts of things did come across to the iOS apps. I'm sure, obviously, there's a team in Google who are working on that and take some of the updates across. We tend to, as you said earlier, we tend to talk about things in this podcast and then magically they happen because Google is obviously listening. So hopefully me mentioning that we'd like to see it come across the iOS apps will mean that it does come across the iOS apps. That would be great. I do think this is a nice update, though, and a very nice tweak to the experience of going in. Thank you very much, Adam. What have we got next, please?
So up next, that was another little update-let, by the way. But up next is not little update-lets. So, and this one is to do with Google Calendar. So, paid appointment bookings are now available within Google Calendar, which I think is quite interesting, actually. So to improve upon the current capabilities of appointment scheduling, the Google Calendar feature that allows users to share their availability via a booking page, Google is now integrating paid appointment bookings into Google Calendar. And as a result of this, appointment providers can connect their Stripe account to Calendar when creating an appointment schedule and set a price. You can also create a new Stripe account from Calendar. So presumably Stripe is going to be the additional platform within this scenario that's going to be handling the payment side of things, and it's going to have some integration with Google Calendar. Also, the person booking the appointment will visit the booking page, choose their preferred time, and at that point, they can edit their credit card information. Requiring payment upfront can help small business owners reduce no-shows and grow their business further. Additionally, this feature enables you to manage your time and payments in a simple and seamless manner. Google Calendar will redirect bookers to Stripe, and Google does not process or store any payment information such as credit card numbers. Google will also not charge any platform fees, which is also nice to see. Google cannot assist with any payment or refund issues, so presumably that's all being held at the Stripe side of things. Cancelling and refunding needs to be handled by providers and bookers via the Stripe dashboard.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, and I'm sure you're going to go in. I can see the getting started here. I'm sure you're going to go into how people are going to get this set up, but I think it goes without saying you're going to need a Stripe account, and you're going to need to set yourself up with Stripe. I've actually set myself up with Stripe. It's very straightforward, and Stripe works really well. So it's nice to see this as a feature. Don't think it's something that I'll get away with. I don't think anybody's going to pay to be on a meeting with me, but I think it is nice to see. I would say that the appointment scheduling part of Google Calendar, and this was in our previous podcast because this came through in an update a little while ago now. I think it's a few months ago from memory. I think the appointment scheduling section of Google Calendar is fantastic. I use it because, as I said at the time, and I'll reiterate again, it replaced Calendly for me. So if you are listening and you have Calendly as a cost within your business, you don't necessarily need to bear that cost because you can use Google appointment scheduling. The only thing I would say is that I think it needs some improvement around how you can manage your time and block out your time and things like that. So an example of that is in Calendly, you could very, very easily go in and you could say, tomorrow, I just want to make myself unavailable for 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. because something was going on, you know, something like that.
Lunch break.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it would scan your calendar and look for other events that were going on, but this was for sort of things that maybe weren't in your calendar, and you could just block that out. It's very difficult to do that with Appointment Scheduler in Google Calendar because it kind of works the other way around. You instead tell it when you're available. But the trouble with doing that is if you're doing that ad hoc, you kind of more want to do it the other way around. I think the other way around makes more sense because you're more likely to be unavailable in these slots that you've already set up rather than saying, oh, I'm now available at a different time. So if you set slots from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., let's say, it's quite unlikely that you're going to go, oh, I'm now available at 6 p.m. or something like that.
I see what you mean, and depending on the individual, I think one way or the other would definitely be a preference. So I think to kind of meet in the middle, they should have the option for either blocking out when you are available or when you're not, and you should be able to choose which one it is, because depending on the individual, I think they would probably lean one way or the other.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it better. Sorry, I couldn't have said it better. You did say it better. I couldn't have said it better. That's exactly what I'd like to see in that section is as you say, you say I'm available at this time or I'm not available at this time, which would completely solve the problem for me anyway that I have. Maybe I'm an isolated case. Maybe everybody else is getting on with it fine and it's just me. I could theoretically just put a blank event, I guess, in my calendar to block that time out, but I just would like the option to be able to blank this out. But that's sort of an aside. That's a feature request that I would like to see in calendar. This for taking payment, I think is really interesting. Not something that I would have thought of. It's obviously a requested feature, otherwise they wouldn't have created it. It's a very, very cool idea. The other thing that you might be able to use this for is maybe kind of a deposit or something like that, because
that's actually the kind of thing that I was thinking of, because I think this update will kind of almost divide opinion essentially, and for some businesses that in a nutshell, it's going to thin out the crowd basically, because maybe depending on what kind of business you have, for example, maybe if it was a tattoo studio or something like this. Something that's really cool, something that has lots and lots of interest, but maybe not all of the interest actually goes to fruition. I don't know if that's the right word. You actually have a sale based upon the interest, and so maybe lots and lots of people would like to have an appointment, but it doesn't always actually go anywhere. So if you just say, you know what, I'm going to charge you an amount for that appointment. Maybe it's only a nominal fee. Maybe it's a $5, maybe it's a $1. It's just a small amount. I think instantly that will thin out the people that are actually serious as to whether they actually want to have the appointment in the first place or not. Because if you are, then you'll be happy to pay some money, because you are actually going to be making some form of purchase, or there is going to be a sale involved somewhere along the lines anyway. And as you say, so it could be used towards a deposit of something, or maybe you're a chiropractor and you just charge a fixed amount of time by the hour or something, and so you can just use this almost as a payment method option. And so then you just have your fixed price per hour, and someone just books your time by the hour. And so it's a different way of tackling that. So I do actually think this is a good update.
Yeah, I think it would be very useful for people in those scenarios. And in terms of what you were saying there about paying for a consultation appointment, I mean, the easiest thing to do, and what I would do, say I was a tattoo artist, I would just say, okay, the initial consultation's going to be 30 quid, $50 or whatever. And you get that money back if you book an appointment. You're like, that's taken off your first session. It's pretty fair sort of process to have. So I think this will be useful for a lot of small businesses, and it's nice to see Google.
Definitely not for everybody. I definitely see this would not be available for everybody, but I think for some businesses, then I think this will be a very good option to have.
Yeah, I agree. And it's nice to see Google thinking about the smaller businesses in those sorts of scenarios. So what's the getting started for this, please, Adam?
Okay, so for the admins, for users on Business Standard, this feature will be on by default and can be disabled within the admin console. For all other tiers, this feature will be off by default and needs to be enabled by your admin. You can also visit Google's Help Center to learn more about allowing paid appointment schedules in Google Calendar. So I've added a link into our document for that. For the end users to get started, for users on Workspace Individual, as the appointment schedule provider, turn payments on by setting it up in the Payments and Cancellation Policy section of the Appointment Scheduler editor. And for all other tiers, if it has been enabled by your admin, as the appointment schedule provider, turn payments on by setting up the Payment and Cancellation Policy section of the Appointment Schedule editor. Did that make sense? Did I get those words in the right order? You can also visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about requiring payment for appointments. And again, I've added a link within our document for anybody that would like some more information for this.
Thank you, Adam. That's very useful for people to know. No, I think you did get all of those words in the right order, so don't worry. Very interesting that it's turned on by default, but only for Business Standard. How interesting. I'm guessing that Google...
It's a business transaction.
Yeah, I'm guessing that Google have thought Business Standard is going to be the most common tier where people are going to use it, I guess. And I've kind of skimmed ahead to look at who it's available for. I think when you get up to enterprise, probably they still want that control of it being off by default, because with enterprise, obviously, much bigger organizations, there's lots of departments, and that needs to be controlled a little bit more.
Yes, maybe once you get to enterprise level, there's contracts and other things that are involved in the sale instead of just a quick, let's just drop $5,000 or however much it is going to be for directly through Calendar.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, what's the rollout pace here then, Adam?
Okay, rollout pace. So for the admin setting of this rapid and scheduled release, there is going to be a gradual rollout, so potentially up to 15 days for feature visibility, which started on July the 10th. For their end user settings, rapid release, there is going to be a gradual rollout, which is starting on July the 20th. And for scheduled release, there is also a gradual rollout, which is starting on July 31st, so end of the month.
Okay, great. So not only is it after this podcast airs, the admins should be able to see this, or very soon afterwards, because it's that 15-day rollout. But it's very nice that the admins have a bit of a breathing window of at least about 10 days before it starts rolling out to end users in the scheduled release there. So that's good to hear. And what's the availability here? We obviously know business standard. What's the availability here?
So this is going to be available to Business Standard, Business Plus, Enterprise Standard, Enterprise Plus, Education Fundamentals, Education Standard, Education Plus, the Teaching and Learning Upgrade, Nonprofits, and Workspace Individual.
What an interesting choice to include education in that.
I was just thinking that, actually.
Yeah, nice that they've included education. If I had to guess, I would say that the immediate thought of where education could use that for is clubs and sporting events and things like that. So if you're doing after school club or something like that, maybe you could allow people to book in on the appointment scheduler.
Yeah, do it from the point of view as if you have to pay to attend this meeting. The meeting happens to be an after school club.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That would be my immediate thought. Anyway, I can't really think of any other meeting-based scenarios at a school where you would pay for that. I mean, even in private school institutions, so you don't pay to go to parents' evening, you don't pay to look around the school or anything like that, or not that I'm aware of anyway. I mean, maybe our American listeners will be able to feedback with some things that happen in America that we're not aware of. But certainly here in the UK, I can't think of anything other than a sort of club or event.
Yes, maybe out there's just a super executive elite master head teacher that's just super busy, and by paid appointment only.
By paid appointment only, Adam. Yeah, they must be really good. Wonderful. Thank you, Adam. What have we got next, please?
So up next, we have a Gmail update. So you can now negotiate time directly in Gmail for scheduling to schedule meetings faster. So Google is adding a feature into Gmail that helps you find convenient one-on-one meeting times with others much quicker. This is especially useful when scheduling times with customers, partners, and people in your organization whose Google calendars are not visible to you. While composing an email, you will see a new calendar icon and all calendar-related actions consolidated and easily discoverable. You can offer times that you're free. So this option opens up your calendar on the right-hand side of the screen. You can select and insert proposed meeting times directly from your calendar into the email without leaving Gmail. So we've kind of mentioned before about the what was the term you used? The all-in-one interface where everything is. What is it? The single pane view?
Single piece of glass. Yeah.
That one. So the recipient of the email can then review the proposed times and select one directly from the email to automatically get an email with a calendar invite. You can also create an event. So this is a quick way to schedule a meeting and share the event information back in the email. Starting the flow opens up the calendar event creation on the right with the recipient and title pre-filled from the email. An event summary will automatically be inserted into the email body for easy sharing. Previously, this feature was available in the three-dot menu on the top of the email conversation view. This feature makes scheduling much easier by reducing the back and forth in lengthy email threads when negotiating or scheduling meeting times. And just a little bit more on this. So for the feature of when you're offering times that you're free, time suggestions can only be made from your primary calendar at this time and only work for one-on-one meetings. If multiple people are included, the recipients within the recipient list, only the first person to book an appointment will be added to the event automatically. Also, for the creating an event portion of this feature, if you are creating events from Gmail, you can create them on any of the primary or secondary calendars you have managed access to.
Okay, that makes sense. I think this is a very nice update. I think it's very useful in the right sort of context of trying to book these meetings, and it is a bit of a nightmare when you're going backwards and forwards with somebody about their calendar and things like that. The other nice thing about this is it's giving that appointment scheduling feature to somebody without them having to commit to having a whole appointment scheduler. So in the update that we mentioned at the start, or the second one, whichever one it was, the calendar appointment scheduling system is there on a more regular basis, but this is great for people who don't want to use that or don't have that, and they just want to do these ad hoc little meetings. The problem that I've always, and I'm not being critical of this update at all, by the way. I think it's a fantastic update. I'm not being critical of the update as such. The only problem that I found with these sorts of features before is people kind of struggle to get them. That's the only problem that I've found. I've set up appointment scheduling in Google Calendar and things like that, but I've still got to be a bit selective about who I send that to, because you know as well as I do, Adam, that I will say, here's a link to my calendar. You can click through and book an appointment with me at a time that's convenient with you. And then it's tumbleweeds because they don't.
How many people actually click on that link?
Yeah, exactly. It's really, I've got to be really selective about who I send it to. Some people get it, some people just don't. They don't understand what that is. And I just have to say to those people, send me 3 times and dates when you're available over the next week or something, or 2 weeks or whatever. Having said that, the moving graphic that's in here showing how this works is alluding to the fact that this feature seems to be super, super easy to use, because I really, really like the fact that when you're selecting the dates and times, it's kind of putting it in as a button almost in the email. That's what it seems to be showing from this moving graphic anyway. And it's going in as like a button, and hopefully even somebody who has a very limited understanding of IT will be able to look at that and go, oh yes, I'm free on that day at that time, and just click the button and go in. So I think it's a very nice update. Like I said, I'm not being critical of it, but I'm just concerned that some people might struggle to understand.
Yes, yeah, I completely understand that. I know one of the struggles that, or barriers that I sometimes have to break through is when somebody's not being too forthcoming with when a event or a time, or agree on a date and a time for a meeting to happen, because everyone's like, oh, when are you free? Oh no, when are you free? No, when are you free? It's like, you know, somebody just select a time. Yeah. Whereas and let people agree or say, no, I'm not available then, but I can do this. It's like, instead of everybody trying to please the other person, just be a little bit direct and say, we can be available at this time. Is that convenient for you? So I think this update could potentially help with situations like that, instead of having to worry about a bit of backwards and forwards of nobody actually suggesting any times or dates when they're free. If you just send out some availability, then they can either accept or decline.
Yeah, I agree with you. And hopefully we'll see an update in the future where multiple people can book in. Like it says there, it's kind of a first come, first serve on the recipients. If you've got multiple people involved, with the first person who books, then it's just booked for them and nobody else. So hopefully we'll see something change where multiple people can book in. That's why it's quite nice having an appointment scheduling system that you just send out and then kind of people can select from it. But even that isn't perfect, because again, that only one person is kind of selecting from it effectively. Nobody's quite been able to crack this system, and I think I agree with what you said, Adam. It's sometimes everybody trying to be too polite and going, oh no, when are you free? Oh, tell me when you're free. Oh no, when are you free? And you think, yeah, just pick a time. I tend to get around it. I tend to be the direct one, so I just say, I can meet on this date at this time, this date at this time, this date at this time. Pick one. Yeah.
We will be meeting at this time, and unless you say otherwise, I will be turning up.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
But equally, kind of what you were saying initially, obviously, you need a bit of what's the right word? You need people to be involved at both sides. So you can send as many suggestions or times and dates as you like, but you're always going to need somebody at the other side to actually action it, regardless whether it's this method, whether it's the previous methods that you're going to use. In order to arrange a meeting, it does require 2 people to be involved.
Yeah, or even
which sounds really simple, but it is a bit of a barrier that we have faced before.
Yeah, definitely. And I do realise that you can be a bit of a moving target sometimes, and it can be difficult for them to lock their diaries down. So I'm sympathetic to that sort of thing happening. But this is a very nice update. Very nice that Google are trying to address that problem that people have of going backwards and forwards. And really, really sort of nice to see. I haven't really seen anybody create a system whereby, and it seems to me to be quite straightforward, where you can just say, I want to book an appointment with these people, and these are the times that I'm free. And when those people go on or click the link, it kind of just says, who are you out of the list? Oh, I'm Adam. Okay. When do you want to do it? Oh, I want to do it this day. And then when someone else goes in, they select who they are. And then you as the you as the organizer can kind of see when everybody's available, like what they voted for effectively as the times. It's probably the closest thing that you're going to get to sorting it all out without all sort of doing it together on a call or in a room or anything like that. Have a meeting to determine when you're going to have the meeting. That's the answer.
Yes. Well, if it helps, going back to one of our previous podcast updates, if you would like everybody to vote, then you can include some very friendly emojis that everybody can click to use to vote for their preferred option.
Exactly. That's how you solve the situation, Adam. More emojis. Yep, you're quite right. Those smart chip emojis. That's how you do it. Lovely. Thank you very much, Adam. Very, very nice update. Really, really like that. I think there's a bit here about sort of getting started, isn't there? And then some rollout.
Yes, that's right. So for the admins, there is no admin control for these features, but for the end users, these features will be on by default. So to add proposed meeting times in an email, start composing or replying to an email, then click on set up a time to meet from the menu bar. Then you can select offer times you're free, follow the instructions on the right hand side panel, and to add times you're available and other meeting details. To accept a meeting time, simply click on the time in the email and confirm your name and email. To create a new event, start composing or replying to an email, then you can click on set up a time to meet within the menu bar, then click on create an event and follow the instructions on the right hand side panel. You can also visit Google's Help Center if you'd like to learn more about scheduling events within Gmail. And of course, I've added a link within our document for anybody that would like to learn more.
Great. Thank you very much, Adam. What's the rollout pace and availability, please?
So rapid release, there is a gradual rollout, so potentially up to 15 days for feature visibility, which started on July the 11th. Scheduled rollout, there is also a scheduled release. There is also a gradual rollout, which is starting on July 31st. This update is going to be available to all Google Workspace customers and also users with a personal Google account.
Very nice, and nice to see that available to everybody as well. So that will be good, and people won't have to wait too long to see that. Thank you, Adam. What have we got next, please? I think it's our last one, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. So up next, we have an update to Google Chat. So you can now add hyperlinks to text within Google Chat. You can now hyperlink text on web and Android when composing or editing a message in Google Chat. This update includes the ability to copy over hyperlinks from other places, such as Gmail, Docs, Sheets, and Slides. Google hopes this very highly requested feature helps your messages look cleaner, more compact, and easier to read.
This is great. I love this update. Absolutely fantastic tweak here to Google Chat. Really like this. I think we will definitely be using this. I put links all the time for you guys in chats and things that we're interacting with, especially to docs within our system, like our SOPs and knowledge base or different things like that. And I often find that's a bit of a problem where I've got multiple links in the message that I'm sending. So I might say something like, oh, hey guys, we've got a new SOP for this. It's here. This replaces the other one here, or this references this one here, or something like that. So I think this will make it look a lot cleaner, and this will be very nice for people to use as well. It's also very easy to, I mean, don't want to steal your thunder with the getting started, but I like the fact that it's a very familiar interface of just sort of highlighting the text and clicking the hyperlink button. So that's very nice to see as well. Final thing I want to say about this, which is shown in the moving graphic here, is it does, as usual with these links these days, put that kind of preview in where it's got the sort of graphic and everything, but very nice to see you can just click the X to remove that, because if you've got multiple ones, you probably don't want to have that, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. This is it's a good update. It's not a massive update, but hopefully it's definitely going to be very helpful to many people. My first thought was actually going away from Google Chat, and Google, if you're listening, maybe we'll happen to see this next week or in soon updates, is actually within Google Sheets. So at the moment, if you're adding a hyperlink into some text within a cell in Google Sheets, the entire cell is then the hyperlink. You cannot add the hyperlink into a couple of words. It's either all of the cell or none of the cell. And I would love to see this come across to Google Sheets, where you can just highlight a couple of words to add in your link.
Oh, really, Adam? Are you sure about that? I'm sure that I've highlighted different sections in Google Sheets. That's quite interesting. I'm going to try that while we're on while we're recording.
Unless that recently changed whilst I wasn't, and it just wasn't announced, or something along those lines. Because I've done it quite a few times before, especially during when we have a team meeting. Sometimes you'll ask me just to add that into our tasks or something like this, which we have recorded within Google Sheets, and I'll add various links to what it's relevant about. And I love, say, adding in a link to click here, and I just want the words click here to be the link, but whenever I've done it, it has to be the entire cell.
Okay, so I've just tested it, and it is possible to have different links for different parts of the text. However, a caveat to that is I'm just going to try it on the same line. What I've actually done is I've put in a piece of text and then another piece of text on another line. So it's still within the same cell, but it's within another line. And if you're listening and you want to know how to do that in Google Sheets, what you do is you hold down on a Mac, I think it's the Option key. On a Windows computer, it will probably be the Alt key, I would have thought. So you hold down the Alt key and you hit Enter, and that will actually do a carriage return within the same cell.
I always second guess that, especially if I'm sending a text message. Say if I'm composing the message on my computer, because it's super quick and easy to do on your phone. But I think, no, I want to have the carriage return. I don't want to just send the message. Like, oh damn, I just sent a really short message. That doesn't make sense because I've not actually finished doing it yet. But I wanted to break up the formatting a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so it's interesting that you pointed out, showed that I was wrong live on air. But does it still work? So you mentioned that, I know we're going away from Google Chat a little bit. Does it still work the same way if the text within the cell is all on one line?
Yeah, I just checked that as well, and that does work as well. So, for example, in a cell...
There must have been an update. I'm not going mad. It definitely did not work that way. I've done that before. It's usually links to other documents that we have, but it is always highlighted the whole text, not just a word or two.
Well, there is a bit of a process to doing it. So I echo what you said, Adam. I'm aware we're going away from this update, but you know, somebody might be interested to how to do this. So what I've done is I've gone into a cell. I've written this is a test, and then what you can do is you can double click on that cell to sort of edit the text specifically within that cell. What that allows you to do is then highlight a word. So, for example, this. And then when you've got just this highlighted, you can click the hyperlink button and you can put in a link. You could then highlight another word, test, for example, within the same cell, and then you could put in a link to that. The way it displays is, I think Google's done the best they can with that situation, but the only sort of caveat to echo what you're saying, Adam, is what happens is when you click on that cell, you then just get a little sort of bar open with both of the links in. So you don't necessarily know which link is related to which word. So if you're going to say, to follow method A, click here, to follow method B, click here, might not work so well in how the end person views that, because they'll just kind of see a box with two links in. They won't it's not that obvious as to which one links to which word you've linked it to, if that sort of makes sense. Sorry for any listeners.
Yeah, it will also almost be situational as to how helpful that would actually be. Oh, but going off that, just thinking out loud, I'm not sure if it is available or not. Can you add multiple smart chips into a single cell? Because that would definitely solve it.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I'm not too sure that you can. We haven't
Stepping
tried
further and
that.
further away from the actual update.
Further and further away from this update, as our listeners have to listen to our mad ramblings about different things that you can do in Google Sheets. Well, I'm not too sure about that because we haven't interacted with smart chips that much, although they are very good. We just don't tend to use them that much for what we do. But going back to this update, I do think it's a very nice update. I think it's going to be very useful. I think we'll definitely use it, and I'm sure there's people listening out there who will find this very, very useful. Could you give us a bit of information about the getting started here? And like I say, sorry if I stole your thunder there a bit.
No, that's no problem at all. So to get started with this, for the admins, there is no admin control for this feature. However, for the end users, to hyperlink your text, you can click on the link icon in the rich text formatting toolbar and enter the URL. And a quick tip from Google for this. So users on the web can use the familiar keyboard shortcut, which is Command-K on Mac OS and Control-K on Chrome OS and Windows to hyperlink text.
That's very useful to know that you can use those shortcuts. That's very, very handy for anybody who uses those shortcuts on a regular basis. Thank you, Adam. What's the rollout pace here?
Okay, so rapid release. There is a gradual rollout, which is starting on July 13th, and scheduled release, full rollout, which potentially 1 to 3 days for feature visibility, is starting on August the 1st. I wonder why that's so far away.
It's quite far away, yeah. Maybe it's because the rapid release is a bit earlier. Because July 13th has passed, so maybe that's why. Because there's a bit of a gap, but that is quite a big gap, isn't it?
Yes, and this update is going to be available to all Google Workspace customers and users with a personal Google account.
That's brilliant. That's really, really good to know. Right across the board, that's what we like to see. Thank you so much for all of that information, Adam. And that's it, everybody. That's everything that you need to know about all of the updates happening in the world of Google Workspace. Remember that this podcast is available from your regular podcast provider in audio format and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/strawberry7. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
We'll be back again next Monday with more updates.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Wonderful. Oh, whoops.